talking, I don't sweat that. If they don't trust me either, I respect that. If she be down the ride, oh, I bet that.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. How y'all doing, Postal family? Everybody good? Everybody cool? Everybody clean? Everybody crisp? Everybody hairy? All right, let's talk, shall we? First off, we have some concerning news, not alarming news. And if this doesn't apply to you, you can click the video off, but it applies to everybody one way or another. It's a complex topic. And if complexity is not your favorite sit through, then shut it off. Let's talk, shall we? Well, we have a scenario that has occurred in the past. The scenario has to do with the debt ceiling and how it affects U.S. postal workers. You heard me right. How it affects postal workers and retirement funds. Now you heard retirement, you about to click it off? No, don't click it off. You know why? Because this has a domino effect on you. Let's talk. So, to break it down in layman terms before I actually read the article, which you probably want to hear, you guys that are working at the post office, whether you're new or whether you're ready to retire, when the government hits the debt ceiling, they tend to withhold funds or take funds from federal workers. It's a temporary thing, but it causes a domino effect. So let's just use this for instance. You have Jim, which is ready to retire in February. Once he retires, and a bunch of people tend to retire in the early part of the year, as we all know. If you don't, now you do. Usually in the middle of the year, usually actually the beginning of the year, usually in the middle of the year, and then right before the holidays, people tend to retire. Now, they are going to dip into retirement funds, which are the TSP, which we just recently spoke about. And again, I'll break this down a little more for you. When they do that, and if I'm about ready to retire or Jim's ready to retire, wait a second. I can't get my retirement funds. So if I can't retire, that means I am going to still continue to work. If I'm going to still continue to work, that means that the people that are waiting to convert to career status can't convert, because every station has, if you weren't aware, the reason that they don't do conversions immediately, this is really behind the scenes, is because at every place they have a certain allotment of career employees, certain allotment of PTFs, and a certain allotment of PSEs or MHAs or assistants. Got that? They have to have a certain percentage. Please don't ask me what the percentage is. I don't know. They have to keep some people as CCAs, some people as mail handler assistants, etc. But once somebody retires, there's a spot opened up, which means somebody or a few people will convert at that point. Now, if you can't retire or Jim can't retire, that means conversions will be delayed. Okay, how long will they be delayed? I'm not sure, but let me read this article to you so you have a better understanding, and I'll actually play a little video clip so you can hear it as well, if you choose to stick around. And I gave you the basis of it, and hopefully this gives you a better understanding, but you should know this happens every few years, and it's a government thing. It's above our heads, so we really don't have any say-so in it. It's weird how they do it. So the article says extraordinary measures will be taken by the Treasury Department. I'm going to skip over a couple pieces here. It says, we do not know when the debt ceiling limit will be raised. There is little doubt, however, that it will be raised as federal government continues to spend more money than it receives in revenue. So you can't spend more than you actually hand. Only the government does that. Not like I could turn and spend $10,000 and I only got $5 in the bank. All right, we can anticipate a spirited fight in Congress on the issue. Blah, 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 blah. We're not going to go into the Democrats or Republicans. In the meantime, many federal employees will be contributing to financing the operation of the federal government, whether they know about it or not. Here's the key. A lot of y'all don't even know it. This is because the G Fund assets of the Thrift Savings Plan, TSP, will again be used by the federal government to help meet expenses. How does the G Fund help prop up the debt ceiling? We're not gonna go there. The G Fund of the Thrift Savings Plan invests in short-term Treasury secretaries issued to the Thrift Savings Plan. As a result, the G Fund can be affected when the debt limit is reached. The principal and interest payments on these securities are still guaranteed by the government. All right. No doubt this makes the G Fund investors nervous. The G Fund is the largest fund in the Thrift Savings Plan. That's pretty much where everybody puts their money in. When the Treasury Department takes this action, investments in the G Fund are still protected and the G Fund earnings are still guaranteed, but the G Fund continues to accrue earnings and the earnings are updated each business day. Loans and withdrawals are not affected. When the disinvestment period ends, the G Fund securities are reconstructed as if a suspension never happened. In other words, the G Fund is used an accounting gimmick to give the government more time to work out the problem. Okay, so what happens here, if that even made sense? Well, they're looking at it to be somewhere in the June to, I think, July timeframe. And again, this affects everybody. Everybody. The domino effect from the top down. Retirees to the newcomers. People that are sitting in the middle, it doesn't really bother. So I'm in the middle, so it won't really affect me. But my co-workers that are trying to move up, I have 3 or 4 people that work with me that are ready to retire, right? Right. So if they're ready to retire and they're like, oh man, it's my last year, I'm retiring in the summertime, they may not be so privy to retire. If they don't retire, a route or a bid does not become open. If it doesn't come open, then the people that are below me on the totem pole can't convert from PTF or PSC to career. You understand what I mean by that? Again, it's a complex topic and I don't really want to get into too much base details, but as postal workers or just people in general, you should know about this because it directly affects you in your everyday life. Will it affect your money? No. Will it affect the retirees' money? No. It just kicks the can down the road a little bit. Instead of him being able to retire in May, he may have to retire in November. That kind of hurts everybody. Does this affect the contract as a whole? I don't believe, because we have these new contracts out that says everybody's supposed to be converted after 2 years. Here's the kicker. Even if they do convert you after 2 years, you can become something called an unassigned regular. Unassigned means that you still don't have a bid. You still don't have a steady schedule. You still don't have a route. Getting all the benefits, but it's just like being a PSC or PTF. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. But let's take a peek at this quick video real quick and then leave your comments in the video description. Please don't bash the Republicans or the Democrats or the indifferents, because this is not a political thing. This is a government thing. And hey, you work for the government, right? Right. Or you want to work for the government. Just understand this happens frequently, every few years. Same thing. I felt you guys should know. Let's take a peek at the video, shall we?
You see right there at the White House, we do have breaking news on the debt limit. Kayla, what do we know?
Well, Scott, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen just wrote a letter to leaders in Congress saying that beginning next Thursday, January 19th, the United States will be reaching its statutory debt limit of just more than $31 trillion, at which point it will have to start taking what it calls extraordinary measures to conserve capital at the federal governmental level to avoid a default on debt. To do that, Treasury is going to be withholding some investments from retirement funds for postal service workers as well as other federal government employees. And Secretary Yellen says that as soon as any such deal on the debt ceiling is reached, that those investment accounts will be made whole. A senior administration official tells me that the White House believes that negotiations on a potential debt ceiling deal would begin in earnest after the tax season deadline in mid-April, at which point Treasury will know exactly what tax receipts have come in, what revenue looks like, and exactly how much time will be left on the clock o'clock, at which point they'll be able to begin negotiations with Republicans in Congress about exactly how a deal could come together. Secretary Yellen says that the U.S. will be able to maintain these extraordinary measures until about early June. We'll see how that goalpost moves in the coming months. Scott?